Let's talk about repetition compulsion. It might seem like a big word to a lot of people. A lot of people might look at it and be like, run away. Very confusing. What the fuck's going on here? I'm going to break it down to make it as simple as possible. Repetition compulsion. Let's look at the word compulsion first. Compulsive. The irresistibility of something. When something is irresistible to you. The media advertising is really good at designing product to make it seem like you fucking need it. You can't live without it. Maybe even, you salivate when you see something like a burger or ice cream or candy, whatever the fuck it is, it doesn't matter. It's this compulsive drive towards something, this irresistible drive towards something. That is compulsion. First word, repetition. You are repeating something. What exactly are you repeating? Well, let's look at the childhood. Let's look at what was learned in childhood. And to make this even more easily understandable, I'm going to go with a theme that I think will be absorbable um, or easily absorbed by people because this is just something that I think a lot of people understand. Self-worth. In a survival-based childhood with fight, flight, freeze, fawn, it's likely that what you learned, if this applies to you, is an extrinsic, externalized sense of self-worth. That means that you were taught by whoever raised you that your worth is in someone or something out there, and it is entirely dependent on that thing or that person. This means that you are only worthy if you get that thing or that person. And if you lose that thing or that person, then you're no longer worthy. That's just the way that it is. So if that is the dynamic that you learned in a survival-based childhood with fight, flight, freeze, fawn, where you learned that your sense of self-worth is extrinsic, it is externalized, meaning it's somewhere out there, that's what you're going to do in adulthood. You're going to live based on the comfort and familiarity of an externalized, extrinsic sense of self-worth. You could have been raised in a healthy family system where you got healthy boundaries, individuation, and differentiation, and you were instead taught that your worth is intrinsic. It is internal. It is inherent in who you are. You don't have to do anything to be worthy. That's what a healthy parent would teach their child. A lot of people, unfortunately, ended up with the lack of healthy boundaries, lack of individuation, lack of differentiation, and with the learned belief that their worth is out there in someone or something. Let's look at the repetition compulsion dynamic of this entire pattern. Because it's a pattern. What you learn, you literally do. You play out, you act out. If you learned that you are only worthy if you achieve XYZ out there, you're going to live that way. That's the way that you learned to be a fucking human being. That's the way that you learned to achieve worth. And so not only that, but you may have also learned that you're just not worthy. And this is the same thing for survival-based childhoods with fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Maybe you learned a dynamic of fighting for your worth, trying to get somebody else to see your worth. And the fascinating thing is that the fighting would maintain itself by being placed in a relationship with somebody that regularly invalidates you or tells you that you are unworthy. But why would somebody continue to choose that? Well, because that is a comfortable and familiar reinforcement of what they learned in childhood. They're not going to chase somebody who's like, hey, tell me I'm worthy. Yeah, you're worthy, you're worthy. No, that doesn't feel familiar to them. What feels familiar to them is to chase something that they cannot obtain. This is why they're going to choose reinforcements that are like, yeah, no, you're not worthy. You're not. You're just unworthy. That's just the way that you are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You are just simply unworthy. There might be breadcrumbs where they are led into a direction of ultimately achieving that worth, but then it goes away. The repetition compulsion is the irresistible drive to repeat comfortable and familiar patterns from childhood. In this case, specifically, the dysfunctional childhood of learning a belief from an unhealthy caretaker, whoever it is, mommy, daddy, whoever the fuck it is, it doesn't matter. It is the irresistible drive to achieve the same emotional dynamics from the fucked up childhood into adulthood. Somebody that doesn't believe that they're worthy, or in other words, believes that they are unworthy, is not going to surround themselves with people that reinforce a belief within them that they are worthy. No, that doesn't make sense to childhood. The equation has to remain unless it's changed, and that is exactly what healing is. Experiencing the opposite of what you previously experienced. But the equation has to remain the same. Insert name equals unworthy. That is the equation that makes sense to the individual. If it was insert name equals worthy rather than unworthy, then they would be choosing people, meaning reinforcements of their internal belief of worthiness that is intrinsic. And the reason why I bring this up this way in the video is because I think that a lot of people see a lot of the stuff that I talk about here and they just kind of like turn an eye. I mean, other than the reality that, I mean, I'm not claiming fact or truth here, but this shit is fucking hard. Healing is not easy work by any means. Actual deep healing entails no fucking band-aids. It entails diving into wounds and understanding how the fuck they started. That's what it entails. Now, it's very important to understand that repetition compulsion is oftentimes something that you are unaware of. That is, in this case, specifically for individuals that are unhealthy because they had an unhealthy childhood. But like, imagine if you were to like take a step back from your life and look at everything from a higher sense of awareness. And you were to look at it all and be like, holy shit, I've been chasing narcissists because I was raised by one? I've been putting myself in relationships with people that fucking invalidate me and fucking gaslight me and treat me like I'm fucking nothing because that's how I was raised? Fuck. I don't know any individual out there that would consciously choose that. You are going to recreate in your life whatever it is that you believe to be true about yourself, about life. If you believe that even in a world of 8+ billion people, that one unhealthy, even quite honestly, or I should say, quite possibly severely unhealthy individual tells you that they're the only person for you in a world of 8+ billion people, you will live that way. Essentially, you're living inside of a box where you're just on a fucking hamster wheel doing the same fucking thing, exhausting yourself in unhealthy, fucked up relationships over and over and over again. That's what repetition compulsion is. The act of recreating in adulthood the comfortable and familiar emotional dynamics that you learned in your unhealthy, fucked up, dysfunctional, survival-based childhood. That's exactly what it is. And again, yes, I do offer coaching. And again, I do go deep. You can contact me at chriscbanish@gmail.com. It's very important to understand before I end off this video that this stuff really requires you to put the brakes on. You don't know what you're doing if you don't know what you're doing. And I know I just said the same thing twice, but think about it. You literally don't know what you're doing if you don't know what you're doing. Do you know what repetition compulsion is? Do you know what it's like to seemingly irresistibly choose something that is fucked up because it's comfortable and familiar to childhood? I'll be here.